So it's kind of going to be like viewer's choice vlog this week. Today I'm going to talk about my ram management, what I do, you know, pre-breeding, during breeding, when they're done breeding, how many rams do I have, what breed are they, how we manage rams on the farm. He's doing a good job. Monday morning and the countdown is officially on. 5 days away from losing my husband for 2 months. So it's gonna be a week of trying to figure out the list of stuff that needs done while Mark is here, including writing up a list of all the things I need to learn to do as a single mom, wife, and farmer running this operation by myself. So that should be interesting. Our year end is when Mark is away, so we have to go to the accountants quick and drop off some numbers and pick up our year end actually from last year because we're bad. I'm coming back though, and I think I might go through some ram management stuff for you guys. You've been asking for it, so stay tuned and I'll be in my Carhartts once again. Well, that took a little longer than was originally planned. We were at the accountants till after lunch, and then we ran to the mall quick to just pick up some more t-shirts for Mark. What I want to do with you guys this afternoon, I want to quickly just see the progress of breeding. It's been 5 days since I put in those rams with the ewes, and I just want to make sure that they're getting bred. So if you remember, I put a paint circle on all their back ends, and I'm hoping the rams will wipe it off. So we'll do that quick right now. We'll just see if there's been breeding action. I want to go through my comments and pick a question that one or a few of you have, especially if a few of you have the same question. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little shout out, and I want to answer your question here on YouTube as part of my video. So all week this week, definitely throw your questions, any question you have regarding the flock or my management or anything like that, throw them in the comments or the descriptions, and what I'll do is I'll just sift through quick on my comments every morning and figure out kind of, is there an underlying theme that I can just choose and do my video on. So it's kind of going to be like viewer's choice vlog this week. Hopefully you guys can tune in every day and see if I picked your question to answer. Today's question, I was asked this on, I believe it was yesterday, on my last video about the rams. She wanted to know all about my ram management, like what I do. And I've been asked this a ton before, and I've kind of been like, yeah, great, that's a great video idea, and then I never did the video. So I'm gonna do the video today. I'm gonna talk about my ram management, what I do, you know, pre-breeding, during breeding, when they're done breeding, what happens to them, how many rams do I have, what breed are they, how we manage rams on the farm. So let's go and see what the flock's doing. Oh wow, I am, hi bud. That little black face one right there was paralyzed last week, and it is walking. Oh, that makes me so happy. Okay, I want to talk about that lamb for a little bit. It's kind of where I left off on Friday when I was with you. And that lamb hadn't been on its legs for at least 24 hours, maybe even more. That one. But it could not move. It could not get up. It couldn't put any weight on its front legs, couldn't put any weight on its back legs. I gave it selenium for 2 days. So I gave it a ½ ml 2 days in a row because I wasn't sure if it was white muscle. Because every time I've talked about this in the past with people that have had white muscle, that's what they said they did. So I looked at the label and it said 0.25 when they're newborns, which is what I do, and then after they're a certain age, I think it's 0.5 mils a day. So that's what I did for 2 days, and it's up. That is like a miracle to me. So selenium, that is a win. Awesome. How are you guys doing? Oh, terrible, I see. Hey, can you get out of your feed? Be great. No? Hey, buddy. Oh my goodness, you guys. This group will be weaned this week. Hi. You're smeared off, which is good. That one's smeared off. That's a ram. That one's smeared off. That one has totally smeared off. That should have been red, and it's gone. You've been smeared? You, me, maybe a little. Gone. Gone, pretty much. This is amazing. I am surprised. They're ewe lambs too. So that's a good little trick, you guys, if you paint the back ends. No, I don't know exactly who bred who, but it will give me a good idea as to what to expect when Rebecca comes here to scan, good or bad, unfortunately. That reminds me, Rebecca's coming Thursday this week, so I will take you guys along with me and watch her ultrasound my sheep to see if they're pregnant. So she sees if they're pregnant or open meaning they're not pregnant. And she also counts how many lambs she's gonna have within reason. Once they get over 2, she just kind of marks them as over 2. She doesn't give me a, like, these are triplets, these are quads. Hey, buddy. This one I would say has not gut bred, but I don't know. This one I would say has gut bred, for sure. Okay, how's my purple pen? It's pretty purple. But I see a lot of tussled wool, like this one's been mounted for sure. Not much there. I think I'll start with the breed. I have 1, 2, 3. I have 4 breeds of rams now. I had 3. Let's start with Rito. So this is my Rito pen. I try to keep the breeds separate for the most part because I have them for different purposes. The Rito I have really for my maternal line. So anything I want to keep back as replacements, I've been historically breeding them Rito. Sometimes those plans change if I didn't have enough females that came out of that plan. So obviously replacement ewe lambs have to be ewes. So sometimes if I don't have enough Rito, I'll have to pull from the Suffolk or the Ile-de-France, which I really only have in my flock for market lambs. So the Ritos I have in this pen are anywhere from, I bought some yearlings a year ago, so they're already 2, and then the remainder of this pen is about 3 years old. So they're 2 and 3, really good ages. They're full grown. They're aggressive without. They're aggressive in that they know what they're doing. There's not a lot of that young fly by the seat of their pants kind of thing. No pun intended. This is the Suffolk pen. But not only do I have the Suffolks in this pen, I also have the Ile-de-France in this pen. So the Ile-de-France are the white-faced ones, and the Suffolk obviously are the black-headed ones and the black legs. The Suffolk and the Ile-de-France are really only here as a terminal breed, so meaning I really want their offspring for a big meaty lamb that will go to market. The Suffolk, the black-faced ones here, really nice big framed animals, but it does require a little more feed to feed them. However, typically their offspring are usually the first out the door for the most part. I'm putting these on some pretty prolific ewes, then of course their offspring gets a little bit watered down. So if I had just purebred Suffolk, they'd probably be way quicker in their getting to market faster, just because that's kind of what they're bred to do. But because I'm putting them on a more maternal ewe, their gains probably aren't as good as what his papers say that they should be. Same with the Ile-de-France. So that's kind of why I went with the Ile-de-France and the Suffolk. They've been really nice rams. I have run into some issues not this past year, my conceptions were quite good, but the year before I ran into some conception problems. And the more records you can keep, the better it is that you can identify issues. I had a few things happen last year. Some of it was management, most of it's management. However, there was one group that just didn't align with what it could have been. So I actually got my vet in and we did some ram testing. We did some semen testing, and what we did find is one of the rams had poor quality semen. So put it right in there? Put this thing right in there? Wait a minute. Okay.
A few inches later.
Yep. That's a sample. So ram semen is very, very concentrated. So there will be somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 billion sperm per milliliter. So his motility is lovely.
Oh, good.
And so then the next thing we do is I will stain a small sample and try and look at individual sperm to see if they are formed normally.
Okay. Should sheep producers test like once a year?
So it's not a bad idea to. Often we end up doing semen tests when we have a suspicion of a problem.
Okay.
Because it's not all that common for us to have failures.
Right.
Quite a bit of money to do for most of them being normal.
Right.
Is the hard part to justify sometimes, but certainly if we find, anytime we find anybody that's a problem, we think, why didn't we do this 6 months ago and know this before we didn't?
Hindsight.
So his sperm look quite normal.
Okay. So he was in that group. It was a small group and they just didn't perform well, and so he must have had enough ewes that he was breeding that didn't conceive. So if you run into issues like that, I mean, it's really good if you've got, I had records that I was able to really hone down and pinpoint really what to look at. In this case, it was the ram. The thing that I've been told about if you want to analyze rams is the triple T, so teeth, toes, and testicles. So when you're choosing a ram, or even just analyzing your own rams, make sure they have their teeth, because if they don't, they're not eating. If they're not eating, they're not gonna be able to produce good sperm or good babies or all the things. They have to be in just as good, if not better shape than a ewe for breeding season. So testicles, they have to be a good circumference, a scrotal circumference. Are you doing a scrotal circumference? Just want to see it. I wonder if I can see. Oh, this is a real thing.
$36.5.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. And then toes, of course, so good feet and legs are always important because they are jumping, they're mounting, they're actually physically have to be able to have a real good footing. And just confirmation, you don't want a lamb coming out of a ram. They walk funny or don't track right, especially if you're keeping them as replacements. So that's what I was taught, toes, teeth, and testicles when you're going out to purchase rams, to keep it easy for my brain anyway. Okay, last but not least, we have my new voice. It is a composite breed, so I have nicknamed this breed a steel composite because I bought them from John and Edie Steele. John and Edie, they have actually passed on their business to another guy, Todd. So I will put all his information below if you're interested in this composite breed. I've had really good luck with the ewes. And what I really wanted to do was to be able to buy a matching ram of the same genetics. That original flock I bought in 2015, they're getting older, so a lot of them have either passed, or I'm just afraid I'm gonna lose them in the next 3 or 4 years, and I won't have that good genetic base to pull from. So I really wanted to introduce these steel rams so I could create my own new original purebred steel composite flock for my own use. I'm basically just replenishing the genetic pool. 4 out of the 5 rams are ram lambs, so they're young. So I am a little bit concerned that they won't know what they're doing, and that's always a risk. But I really wanted to keep them separate from the other rams because I really want to analyze kind of how they do. And I do have some original, not very many, but I have a few original steel ewes in this, so I will be able to start collecting some of my purebred steels off of this group. So I'm very excited to share all that stuff with you if they breed and conceive. As for when I bring in new rams, I try for the most part to keep them isolated from my main flock. Not only that, but most definitely not mix them with the rams that already have their social hierarchy. Because what can happen is they've already established who the kingpin is. If you throw them in with them, they're gonna fight because you're disturbing that social order, especially with animals. It doesn't matter if it's a chicken, a cow, sheep, but definitely I saw it in chickens for sure, and I do see it in sheep. So a lot of people ask me, do rams fight? They do, but for the most part, once they figure out that social order, they're pretty good. They don't try to kill each other as much. So I will put them, usually you'll always see them, if you go back to any of my videos, they're usually in this pen. All right, here they are. Hello, boys. When I brought in those steel rams a couple weeks ago, I only had 5 of them, right? So I just shut up this one little area, and that's why I got those T-posts made when I bought these from Marweld. So they've got a little hook coming out, so I can always put a gate going this way too. So I gave them their own little pen, and then the rest of the boys had enough room on the other side of the gate. I always keep the new rams separate until after their first breeding. So I am bad for bringing in rams pretty close to when they have to breed. You shouldn't really do that. If you talk to breeders, they'll tell you don't do that, but my life and my timing is never what I planned, so I was too late getting them. So that is why they're by themselves. They're not with another ram. And I will actually make a judgment call. For the most part, I'll put them right in with the rams once they're done breeding, because they got that. They kind of have to reestablish their order again anyway, and I find if they're going to do any fighting, they're going to do it at that point. However, because there's some ram lambs in that group, I sometimes do keep them separate till I think that they have enough body girth to kind of hold their own. So I'm going to make the judgment call after I see what they look like when I pull them out from breeding. Kind of keep them isolated. You should do that anyway for disease or anything like that, but the good thing about buying from a high health flock is that when I bring them into my barn, they're probably more susceptible to pick up bugs that I have versus my animals picking up bugs from them, because they won't. As for just management stuff, I run them through this probably once a year for sure for hoof trimming. So I'll hoof trim and vaccinate them at the same time. I vaccinate just with the Tasvax, a Clostridial booster every year. So that'd be a 2 mil shot every year. I always hoof trim once a year, and they get sheared once a year. Okay, show you how this sucker works. So I got this side screwed in. I'm gonna push this down so he comes to the bottom of the crate, and then squeeze this side. So they're rams, so they're a bit bigger, so they don't need squeezed quite as tight. And then you flip them over. Hey, buddy. Hi. This is a really good time to test to make sure his testicles are in good order, which they are. His feet have been done, so I'm just going to trim them up a little bit, but Shania's done it, and I am going to give him this vaccination. Yeah, these trimmers suck. This year I sheared before that July breeding group, and I think that helped keep their body temperature cooled off a little bit. So I'll probably do that again this year, is wait until the summer months when it's a little bit warmer to shear them off, and they'll be good to go for that next breeding group. So that's about all the management I really do with them. They're pretty low maintenance. The males are pretty low maintenance. What you do have to do is watch their nutrition, and nutrition is something I take seriously for both the ewes and the rams. So what I'll do is with the rams, pre-breeding, I treat them like a flush ewe. So when the ewes get put on a flush ration, I'll put the males on a flush ration. And then post-breeding, depending on their body condition, if they look like they went backwards, I will keep them on that flush ration for a few weeks after they're done breeding to just bring them back to the body condition I want them in. However, if they haven't lost much body condition, I'll just throw them back onto like a maintenance ration or dry ration. Just because you also don't want them getting too big, because that can impede, their mobility when they're trying to breed, because we do want these animals to be able to function naturally, meaning they have to be able to mount and they have to be able to complete the task at hand. In this case, it might be the ewe. She looks a little bit chubby. Just remember, guys, that's a ram lamb. And that's a mature ewe. So he's got a bit of square footage he's got to cover here. He's doing a good job. So it's always nice to at least have one of the two that know that she's patient with them. She's kind of just showing them the ropes. She's a little Mrs. Robinson. Atta girl. So that looks like it was successful. All right, Billy. Can you show your teeth?